Hello and welcome. We're still going on with John Story's book, Cultural Theory and Popular Culture and Introduction. Today we're going to talk about chapter 8 that is about race, racism, and representation. Um, this topic is very important because we do not learn about race just from history books or schools, but we also learn about it from films, television, advertisement, news, music, and social media. Popular culture plays a strong role in shaping how we see other people and how we see ourselves. John Surrey explained that race is not something neutral or biological. Instead, race is something that is created through culture, language, and representation. The way people are shown again and again in media becomes normal in our minds. This is how stereotypes are formed and repeated. So, in this video, I will explain how race works as a cultural representation, how racism is produced through meaning and power, and how Orientalism is one of the clearest examples of racial representation. So John Stories begins by explaining that race is not biological facts. Science shows that all humans are very similar, and there are no clear biological borders between races. However, race still exists socially because people believe in it and represent it as real. Race becomes meaningful through culture, language, images, stories, and media. Teach us what race means. Popular culture show us who is seen as normal, who is seen as different, and who is often shown in a negative way. These representations slowly shape our thinking. Racism, according to Story, is not just about hate or bad behavior. It is a system of meaning. Racism works when certain racial groups are repeatedly represented as inferior, dangerous, or less human. These ideas become common sense even when they are false. Race is something we learn, and racism is something that is produced and repeated through representations. Moving on to the ideology of racism, Story explains here that racism did not appear by accident. It has a historical background. Modern racism developed strongly during colonialism and slavery, when European powers needed to justify their domination of other peoples. To justify slavery and colonial rule, racist ideas were created. Non European people were described as primitive, irrational, or uncivilized. These ideas made exploitation seem natural and acceptable. This is what Story refers to as racist ideology. Ideology works by making ideas seem normal and true. Racist ideology presented inequality as natural difference. These ideas were spread through science, literature, education, and later through popular culture. Even today, although society has changed, many of these old ideas still appear in media. This shows that racism is not only about the past, it continues through cultural representation. Orientalism is a very important concept linked to race and representation. Story discuss it using the work of Edward Said. Orientalism describes how the West represent the East, especially the Middle East, North Africa and Asia. In Orientalist representations, Eastern societies are often shown as exotic, mysterious, violent, backward, or emotional. At the same time, the West is shown as modern, rational, and superior. This creates a clear division between us and them. These images are not innocent. Story explains that Orientalism supports power relations by representing the East as inferior. Western control and domination appear justified. Orientalism appears strongly in popular culture, especially in films, news, and political discourse. These repeated images shape how people understand entire regions and cultures, even if they have no direct experience with them. So, in the final part, Story connects race and racism to cultural studies. Cultural studies is interested in how meaning is produced, how power works through culture. From his perspective, racism can be challenged by challenging representation. Anti racism is not only about laws or policies, it's also about changing meaning. Cultural studies encourages us to question stereotypes, exposes racist ideologies, and supports alternative representation. So, a story shows that meanings are never completely fixed. Audiences can resist racist images, and, and marginalized groups can produce their own representation. Anti racism, therefore, involves being critical of media, language, and everyday culture practices. To conclude, John's stories, chapter 8, help us understand that race is cultural construction, not biological truth. Racism works through representation, ideology, and history, and it's deeply connected to the power. The ideology of racism developed in a specific historical context, especially colonialism, and continues today through popular culture. Orientalism is a clear example of how racial difference is represented in ways that support domination. Finally, cultural studies offers tools for anti-racist thinking by questioning stereotypes and challenging dominant meanings. Understanding representation allow us to see that culture is not neutral, it shapes how we think, feel, and act. By becoming more critical of popular culture, we take an important step toward understanding and resisting racism.